Salutations Swifters, it's Prof. G, and in this lesson we're going to learn how to delete documents in Cloud Firestore. Let's learn big! Now we're building off of our earlier lesson. You can find over 100 lessons at our playlist. Deleting a document in Cloud Firestore is super easy. We just use the delete method, and we preface this with a path where we want to find the document that we want to delete. Now remember, path is based on a combination of collection then document. Now we could go through multiple levels of collection and documents, and we'll do that later on when we store reviews for each individual document. But for now, we're just going to go into the spots collection and delete a single document representing a restaurant. Now each document has an ID, and that's the same as the document's name. We'll handle a delete when we swipe left in our list view. That's how we delete. Let's code it up. And we want to do this from inside list view, so make sure you're there. Now back in our to-do list app, we learned a couple of ways to handle swipe to delete. Here I'm going to use the swipe action modifier, and I'm going to place this after the navigation link so that I can detect a swipe on an individual item. .swipe actions comes up with just one option, so press return to accept this and return again for trailing closure. Now inside we'll pass in button, and we're going to select this option with title, role, and action. Press return. Title is going to be delete. The role is going to be .destructive. Then tab to action, press return for trailing closure, and I'll put in a to-do comment that says call delete function here. Now let's write that delete function in our view model. Let's head to SpotView model, and we'll scroll to the end, and we'll enter this function just before the closing curly. And we'll say func, call this delete spot lower camel case, and we see that Xcode wants to recommend a lot of code for us. I don't even want to return a value with this function. We'll handle any error messages inside the function. So I'm just going to pass in a spot, colon, which is of type spot, and we'll write the function between the curlies. First, we're going to refer to our Firestore database with let db equals capital F firestore.firestore, open and close parens. Remember, that's just as we did in our save function up here. Now I should absolutely have a valid ID when I call this function, but since spots.id parameter is an optional, I've got to unwrap that value. I'm going to do it with a guard let. I'll say guard let id equals spot.id, else open and close curlies with the return inside. And above this, I'll print no spot ID if I get an error, but I'll never get an error. And below this, the delete method that we're going to use is going to be asynchronous, and it's also going to potentially throw an error. That means I'm going to wrap this in a task block with capital T task, open and close curlies, and inside I'll put in a do, open and close curlies, catch, open and close curlies. And inside the do clause, I'll say try, await, and Xcode wants to write the rest of this for me. It's guessing properly, so I'm going to tab to accept this. That's db.collection passing in the string spots, .document passing in ID, which is what I got from my guard let up top, .delete, open and close parens. That should delete the document with the name ID that's inside the spots collection. Otherwise, if we have a problem down here in the catch clause, we'll print out the string angry emoji error, colon, could not delete document string interp spot.id, and I'll follow this with string interp error.localized description. And I've decided to change how I'm organizing this code. We'd previously been creating an instance of the SpotView model and then calling the function from that. But instead what I'm going to do here is I'm going to preface func with static. Now remember what that does, that allows us to just refer to the name of the class. We don't have to create an instance of the class, and we can call the function. This will actually work great, so let's head over to our list view and try it out. So inside our action for our button inside of the swipe action, I'm going to delete the comment that we wrote there. And I'm going to enter the class name, so I'm not even going to create an instance of an object from this class. I'm going to say capital spot view model. Here's the name of the class that shows up. We don't even have to initialize this. We can just say .delete spot. That's the magic of prefacing the function name with static. So far, we have no data that we're modifying inside of this class. There are no class properties, so it's totally okay for us to do this. So we'll follow that with our delete spot method, and we're going to pass in spot. That's lowercase spot, the value that we're getting in our list for the element that we swipe on. So let's build and run, try this out. Hammer time. Here's our list of restaurants. Now I've got Union Street up here, but unfortunately, even though that was a wonderful bar, it closed earlier this year. So I'm going to swipe left to delete it. Boom, it's gone. And in fact, if you take a look over in the Cloud Firestore console, you can see we've got 3 documents here. None of them is Union Street. So why don't I click on plus to add another restaurant in here? How about Flatbreads in Chestnut Hill? Save this. We see in the console in the back, it refreshes automatically. So we've got Flatbreads in here. If I want to swipe left, goodbye Flatbreads. It's no longer in the console. It's no longer in my app. It's gone from the cloud. And so since we made our delete method a static method, why don't we make our save method a static method? And we can do that as well. So let's head back over to our SpotView model. We'll put the word static in front of the line where we define our save spot function. And now let's use this over in our spot detail view. We're getting an error down here, but that's because we can now delete the spot VM that we created up here, that instance of the object, and just refer to the class as SpotView model. That'll call a function, and this also means that we no longer need this state variable up here called SpotVM. That's because we've created a static function that doesn't require us to create an instance of the class. Build and run, let's see how this works. Hammer time once again. Let's click on plus and add Shake Shack on the street at Chestnut Hill. Not too far of a walk from the Boston College campus if you like those burgers. So we just created a record. If we want to update, why don't we click on Pino's Pizzeria? It's really called Pino's Pizza, so I'll change this and click on save. Update is working, and we can see all the records in the app, so read is working as well. I see I've got one little warning up here in the title bar in Xcode. Let's deal with that. So warnings with a little yield triangle usually don't crash your program, but if I click on it, I can see over here in the navigator, there's an issue with string interpolation. If I click on it, it brings me directly to the spot view model. Oh yeah, I'm referring to spot.id here, but I really unwrap this value with the ID property up here, which should be available after guard let. So I'm just going to change spot.id to just ID. If you wait a second, the yield warning will go away, and it's looking good. Swifter, you now have full CRUD capabilities in the cloud. That's full stack, baby. Take a Swifty bow, but be sure to come back, because there's a lot more big learning to come.